My name is Dennis Dano, and I am now the current chair of the League of Women Voters. Yay. I would like to say a couple words about the League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan political organization, encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Now, to be a member of the League of Women Voters, you can be a member. It's open to any person, including men, just to say, any person who subscribes to the purpose and the policy of the League. I suspect that's most of you, because we are trying to do something here that encourages people to pay attention to what's happening in their community, and that's why we're here. So, a couple more things to say. I wanted to thank Zach Jablonski for a wonderful article he had in the Peninsula this morning. Yay, Zach. Peninsula Daily News. We appreciate that. Also, we should tell you that ballots will be mailed out Wednesday. They're due by Election Day, which is August 6th, which also happens to be the day that was the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. Just thought you might want to know that. Okay, so with that, I think I'll introduce Catherine Buchanan. She is involved with the chair of public policy of the American Association of University Women, which also includes men who feel that their mission statement is appropriate, and I am a proud member of that as well.
My name is Catherine Buchanan, and I am the Public Policy Director for... Oh, he's taller than I am. For American Association of University Women. AAW in Port Townsend was founded in 1948, so this is our 71st year. We have over 200 members at this time. Our goals are to support economic opportunity for women and girls, to support education equity, to advocate equity in public policy, and to honor women who demonstrate leadership and commitment. We sponsor the STEM, the Science, Technology, and Engineering program that goes to the through the universities. We sponsor the Career Days at Blue Heron, Chimacum Creek Literacy Project in the primary schools, Grant Street Literacy Projects, math projects in Chimacum and the Grant schools for third graders, public forums. So we co-sponsor with the League that do a lot of work on this, and the Women of Excellence Award for the women in Port Townsend that have made a big difference in our community. Well, women in Jefferson County. And with that, I will turn it over to our moderator, Shelley Randall.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you all for being here. My name is Shelley Randall. It's a pleasure for me to be moderating tonight, as I care very deeply about the schools in our community, as I'm sure many of you do. But just to be, for full disclosure, I do not have a child in the Chimacum School District. My child goes to Port Townsend. But I've been attending forums in Jefferson County like this for 20 years now. At first as a reporter for The Leader. And then it's 3 years ago when my husband, Jeff, ran for the PUD Commission. And so I have attended a lot of these. Even back when I was a child, my own mother ran for the school board in Anacortes, where I grew up, and then she served 3 terms. Very proud of her, and I'm very proud of all of the candidates who have stepped forward to fill the positions on Chimacum School Board today. Now, when I think back to all those forums I've attended, I want to emulate something at this forum that I feel was always a part of those very successful forums. It didn't matter how many people were in the room, because I actually know that everyone here you're the people that matter. You are the influencers in your circles. You are the media. You are the leaders. And so the fact that this is a small crowd does not concern me at all. What concerns me is that we start with a shared understanding that we all have one thing in common. We all care. And we care really deeply about this community and especially about Chimacum School District. Can we all agree to that?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. I will say that the 4 candidates seated here have taken it one giant step further in their caring. And they all filed to fill the position which is being vacated by Director Mike Gold. And if you aren't aware, there are 2 other seats that are also up for election. So a total of, if I have this correct, 3 of the 5 seats on the Chimacum School District Board will be decided in this year's election. So this is the only seat that had more than 2 people file, and so there will be a primary. So that's why we just have these 4, but they are all running for one position. So let's do the math. How many of them will advance to the general? 2, right. The top 2 vote getters in the primary will move on to the general, and then there will be one who will get the honor of serving as your candidate. And I did want to also lay the groundwork about the job description. I've already had a question about this from the audience. Do school board members get paid? No, there's no salary and no benefits for being a school board member, not, employee benefits. I'm sure there's lots of benefits to being a school board member. They may get a small per diem for going to conferences or have fees covered if it's in the service of their school board job. But they are the elected governing body, and they will serve a 4-year term. The school board's governance responsibilities fall in 4 major areas. So keep this in mind again when we're doing our Q&A. The 4 major areas are vision, a focus on student achievement through comprehensive strategic planning. So setting that vision. Structure, prudent financial planning and oversight, as well as diligent and innovative policy making. Accountability, specific goals and a process for evaluating, reporting, and making recommendations for improvements. And advocacy, championing public education in the local community and before state and federal policy makers. So there you go, vision, structure, accountability, and advocacy. And of course, they set the general policies of the district, they hire the superintendent, and one of the critical duties is the adoption of the district's budget and the proposal of any levies to be placed on the ballot. So there we go. They set the salaries for school district employees and, much, much, much more, but just wanted to make sure that you were all clear what these 4 candidates are offering their services to do. Are there any burning questions about that before I move into the structure of our evening? Okay, great. Well, you all, of course, are here for some introductory statements from our candidates, and then we'll just have a Q&A for the evening, at which point, when we're ready to call it a wrap, each candidate will get to have a closing statement. So I just ask that we all honor and respect that these 4 candidates have put their lives on hold for this election season and are willing to include being on the school board as part of their lives going forward. And if we have that honor and respect for them caring so much to do that, then please include deep respect in your tone and questions. So here is the format. I've invited each candidate, and we've already selected the order by a random draw, to come up to the podium, and each will give a 2-minute opening statement. We have a timekeeper who will kind of keep them on track too. And then we'll just go right into Q&A. I'll start with a few written questions, but we have also a live mic back by Bruce. It's kind of in the back of the room, but you can go back and ask your question there. And each candidate will then, in turn, we'll rotate who starts first, have 2 minutes, again, to answer that question. Really important to note that the way these forums are structured, it's not a dialogue. It's not a back and forth. We just unfortunately can't support that. So you get to ask your question, or I'll read the question, and then each candidate will have the 2 minutes, and they'll have to interpret that question as best they can, because once you've asked your question, you really can't add on to it, and you can't ask a follow-up question. I do, however, know that all these candidates will be sticking around afterwards having some coffee and cookies. So if you have anything that you'd like to ask any one of them individually, grab them before the evening's over, or call them, look at their websites, right? Social media. And I also wanted to say that all the questions need to be directed to all the candidates. So please don't direct it to only one candidate. They all need to be general in nature. And then at the end, each candidate will have a 1-minute closing statement. And I'm going to turn this over to Steve Martin, who is going to begin.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Jefferson County League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's forum and for you guys for coming to attend this. My name is Steve Martin. My wife and I moved to Chimacum 19 years ago this last May. Back then, Martin had just finished her 3rd year of teaching biology and chemistry at Chimacum High School, and after seeing how welcoming the Chimacum's teachers and parents had been to her, it didn't take much for her to convince me to put down roots here. I'm a self-employed general contractor. My company, Northwest Landworks, specializes in excavation. It should also be noted that my wife no longer works for the school district, so there's no conflict of interest there. We have 2 sons who attend Chimacum schools. Reed will be in 8th grade this fall, and Ben will be entering 10th grade. I'm optimistic about the future of the school district with its dedicated staff, small class sizes, and modern, well-maintained facilities. There are great things happening every day in our schools. However, Chimacum schools are facing challenges in the coming years due to rapidly declining enrollment and how Washington State funds small rural schools. When people ask me why I'm running for school board, I tell them that I have skin in the game. The success and the failures of the schools directly affect my kids and their classmates. I talk about how I've been regularly attending school board meetings for the last year, not to prepare for running for school board, but because I wanted to be informed about the big changes ahead in our district. I talk about the need for more parent representation on our school board. It's parents like me who are deciding whether to enroll their kids in our district or to take them elsewhere. I tell them that I think Chimacum schools are at a major crossroads right now, and that I want to help guide it on a path forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. A crucial aspect of one's participation in our democratic process is being informed, and you're hearing it straight from the candidates. As mentioned, we are at a critical turning point. In the past decade, 5 people have held the District 3 seat for the Board of Education. While the term of office is 4 years, we have averaged half that. We have seen 5 people appointed, 3 resignations, and the untimely death of my next-door neighbor, Jody Kossel. May she rest in peace. Last spring, the incumbent for District 3, Board Chair Mike Gold, announced that he would not run for re-election, stating that he has failed to live up to his own standards for chairing the board, and he is not the right person to help Chimacum schools reach its potential. We have the opportunity to move forward with strong leadership to empower our teachers to best prepare our children for the job market of tomorrow. All of our children must have the success when they leave Chimacum schools, whether that next step is further education or entering the job force immediately. That means achievement beyond acceptable scores on standardized tests. It means we must look beyond reading comprehension to social emotional learning and development of the whole person. Moving forward, the board must be more engaged in the community, and the community must be more engaged with the board. There are dozens of community meetings each month, from county commissioners, Board of Health, Planning Commission, and the Chamber of Commerce. The district should be represented, advocating for our children, and endorsing policies that lead to a better tomorrow. It's 2019. Every institution should have a strong social media presence. I look to our president's platform of choice, Twitter. The Chimacum High School Twitter account has 123 followers and hasn't tweeted since 2016. Wow. The district account has never been used. It only has 8 followers. Dear Donald has 62 million followers. Closer to home, one of our wonderful National Board certified teachers, Alfonso Gonzalez, has 5,000 followers on Twitter. The district must adapt a 21st century communication policy. We have the capability to live stream our communications and have live input from all stakeholders. Thank you.
While Gary Frogner is coming up.
I'd like to join with the others on thanking everyone for their participation tonight, their interest in and dedication for our schools. And I'm honored to be up here with these great candidates. So. With 28 years in our community as a proud father and grandfather of Chimacum students, I'm deeply committed to our schools and becoming exceptional. My broad education in science, engineering, and public policy, my life experience as an educator, a leader, a major program director, and businessman have instilled a profound appreciation for education and the power of we. I have put this commitment into practice over the past 3 decades by volunteering in numerous roles within our schools and community. I'm recently retired and thus able to dedicate my full-time talents and energies to a bold new vision of transforming Chimacum schools into the preeminent education choice in Washington. As we unify around that vision, our challenge will shift from triaging hemorrhaging enrollment problems to managing exciting new opportunities and resources associated with growth. Experience has convinced me that when a community comes together passionately around a common vision, everything is possible. I then echo the Seahawk question, why not us? As a retired submarine commander and business executive, I know how to get things done. I have extensive hands-on experience building towards award-winning collaborative teams to achieve multi-million-dollar program objectives on schedule and within budget. I know how to slice and dice complex financial spreadsheets to ask the hard questions and ensure any trade-offs within limited resources are optimized to meet policy objectives. I will ensure wise stewardship in meeting your priorities. I believe in representative government, especially local government. Having had children in numerous school districts across the nation during my military career, I'm convinced that the top predictor of school excellence is community involvement, especially parental involvement on behalf of their children. Together, we can prepare our students for the 21st century workforce, instill passion for lifelong learning, and empower them to become informed citizens. We can do this.
We have Christina Mayer.
Thank you. I would echo everyone else's thanks for being here this evening and sponsoring this event. And again, I'm also honored to be amongst an esteemed group of people running for this office. Well, first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a lifelong educator. I've lived in Jefferson County for 30 years. I actually arrived here to teach at Grant Street. I see Bruce Cowan in the back. Bruce was there at the time, 1989, when I taught 2nd and 3rd grade at Grant Street. I lived in Port Townsend until about 7 years ago when I moved to Chimacum. I have had a long and expansive history in education. I've done teaching. I've worked in the central office in Silverdale. I have been a principal on Bainbridge Island and in Silverdale. I have also served on the State Board of Education. So my big volunteerism has been dedicated to education and its policy framework. I volunteered on the State Board of Education for 9 years and chaired the board at one point, served on its executive committee for most of the 9 years that I was there. I want to say 3 things. I want to help us shift our limiting beliefs to those of optimal opportunity. There is no reason that Chimacum can't be an outstanding school district. I want to reverse the trend on enrollment, starting to focus on the middle school. That's the age when students start to drop out in place, and we're suffering from some low achievement and low attendance at the middle school. So let's get them engaged. I want to build on the efforts to improve climate and culture. I want to accelerate efforts to improve academic achievement for all students, not some students, but all students. I want to identify, select, and move forward on a brand for Chimacum to fuel a robust communication strategy. We have to know who we are to sell it. Believe it, be it, become it.
Thank you very much. Wow, there is a depth of experience here at the table. I'm going to start to let each of them tell us a bit more about their priorities for the school district. So I have a pre-submitted question. I'll start with 2 pre-submitted questions, and then we'll see if there's one from the floor we'd like to take. So in this case, we're just going to rotate who starts. So I'll ask Gary to start, and we'll just go down the line. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer. So here's the question. What do you see as the top priorities for the Chimacum School District? And please do stand. Yes, thank you.
There's a lot of discussion about declining enrollment and the financial impacts of that at Chimacum School, and that is something everyone's dealing with. But I think that's a symptom instead of the problem. If we have the best education opportunity to parents within this district, they're going to choose Chimacum instead of the other alternatives of private schools and going into the other districts. I believe our top priority is gaining and communicating excellence within Chimacum schools. I've had my kids in school districts across the country, and the number one predictor of excellence has been community involvement. The worst school, South Carolina someplace. One of the best schools, Monterey, California, where a meeting like this would be standing room only in an auditorium. We have 10,000 voters in this school district. We have approximately 20 participants tonight, which is great that you're here. But think of the power. If we had 1%, if we had 100, think of the power if we had 10%. Community involvement will change Chimacum School District. If I'm elected, I will incessantly, neurotically, unforgivingly, and unabashedly invite. The school board will be driven until they disinvite me from coming to hold town meetings, forums, surveys. The school district desperately needs to hear from the community and the parents. The parents, not the paid professionals, need to be in charge of making Chimacum School the greatest in the state, and they can do it.
Thank you. So obviously the financial issues are primarily tied to the recent changes in funding. A big part of that is the levy rollback, which changes the limits on how much money you can collect. You also have declining enrollment, and when you're funded on how many kids you have, a drop in enrollment, especially when it's below what is budgeted, definitely affects your bottom line. This year we're dipping into the reserves. Now that's not sustainable. So as previously mentioned, we need to go after the root causes, and we need to go after community engagement. As I mentioned, there are many ways for our board to be involved and for our district staff to be involved. There have been notable new hires of major corporations in our area that chose to live elsewhere because we weren't reaching out to those employers, and they didn't know what to tell their new hires about the district. They went elsewhere because we didn't reach out. We also need to continue our academic improvement. A few weeks ago, we got some academic test scores that are a significant improvement over the last couple of years. But as I mentioned, achievement is more than just those test scores. Our kids need to be well-rounded. They need to learn the soft skills, teamwork, hard work ethic, and so on. Thank you.
So a lot of this work has already been done. The Choose Chimacum Committee, Enrollment Committee, sorry.
There we go.
So what I'm saying is the work has already been done. The Choose Chimacum Enrollment Committee this spring presented to the board their report, and it gave 3 actionable priorities that they had developed. Improve district image through strategic public relations program, improve learning climate, and enhance academic opportunities through expanded programs. Following these guidelines that this committee of stakeholders put together, will put a plug in the enrollment problem. These are significant. This is a significant document that has been ignored by the current board. They were the ones that asked this committee to be formed, but it has not made the agenda, but I think one time. This is my platform. I'm gonna I'm going to bring this to the agenda every board meeting that I possibly can. There's the action items are there. Let's pursue this document.
Well, I'd like to expand on a couple of items that have already been mentioned. For one, the Choose Chimacum report. While I don't disagree with the priorities, in fact, I agree wholeheartedly with the priorities of image and public relations, climate for students and staff, and enhancing or expanding academic opportunities, the report itself needs strategy and outcomes to accompany a list of tasks. We need to be assigning responsibility and metrics to our priorities. We actually have no way of knowing if we were successful by using the report in its current format. I've participated time and again in meetings at the district, and they went to a certain point and then they didn't go any further. And what I'd like to do is bring the leadership that can bring it home. We can't continue to ask for input, but then not know how to actualize it or turn it into actionable items with metrics that say, we're going to be doing these things by this date, and this is the outcome you can anticipate, community. We're going to deliver for you, and then do it. So, those are some of the things that I would like to do. Also, I would like to follow up. I thought Art Clark at the last board meeting made a really good presentation about ways that we can maximize funding from OSPI that we're currently not able to do. And that's kind of low-hanging fruit in my eyes. So those things include helping students who are in poverty sign up for free and reduced lunch. We're not currently signing up all of our students. They don't have to eat it, but if they sign up, it triggers some funding for us. Apply for safety net funding. Last time we only got half the funding because some of our special ed paperwork was out of compliance. So there's other things that Art suggested that I would support, and I'll follow up with that later.
Great. Okay, well, I'm going to read one more question that's been submitted ahead of time, and we'll just rotate who starts. So I'll ask Jeremy to start, and we'll just work our way back down the table. That was a lot about priorities, the priorities that you saw. This question is similar, so if you didn't have a chance to get all of your thoughts out on that last one, but it also involves a little bit of a shift in perspective, kind of asking you to envision the future. If you are elected, what accomplishments on the board would you find most satisfying?
You know, that's a great question. So, this was briefly touched on, but the board really hasn't set very good goals, and they really don't quantify what they're trying to achieve. So, the first thing would be setting a defined vision and working towards that, and that would be on a 1-year vision, a 3-year vision, and a 5-year. In the immediate future, we want to continue the trend of academic improvement, and we want to start getting the community more engaged. If we can have double this number of people at a PTA meeting, that's a lot of voices and a lot of input. Furthermore, we need to attract more people to the district, those that are qualified, those that already live in the district and are well qualified. Our retiree community are great volunteers and they want to help. Thank you.
Well, the priorities for me are, in the immediate future, is to work on this Choose Chimacum enrollment report. I'd like to see the district hire a public relations consultant so that all the district departments can be on the same page and communicating a positive message about the district to the public. The other thing, I mean, regaining the trust of the community. We've had some marginal success with levies and bonds in the past. I think if we continue to increase our test scores, the people in Port Ludlow will be more apt to trust that we're using their money better. The most immediate thing is to, of course, have the parents trust us also, that we're representing them as board members, and giving them a reason to stay in Chimacum as opposed to leaving to other school districts. That's all I have.
If I'm elected to the Chimacum School Board, the top three things that I would be proud of in the end would be turning the trend around enrollment around, and that will take a fairly significant effort on many fronts. And it includes many of the things we've already talked about: the branding, the communications, some minor facilities improvements, and cosmetic changes at the school to improve our appearance. But the thing I would be most proud about is that our children would have higher academic achievement. Frankly, if we're using the state average as a goal, we are leaving approximately 40% of our students behind in English language learning. And would you want that to be your child? We are leaving 51% of the students behind in math and 46% in science. It simply isn't aggressive enough. I want children achieving at a much higher level. And I agree with all the ideas about getting them to participate in sports and activities and all of those things, but they also need to know the content. I also would like to see us work on our graduation rate. We're a small district. When we have a class of 82 and we lose 6%, we've lost some children. And if students graduate, they're likely to have a living wage, they're less likely to be incarcerated, they have better health outcomes, and I just think we can do it. We can get all of our kids across the finish line. My deepest joy would be that we would help students in Chimacum have vision of something they can contribute to community in the future, and that requires some academic achievement improvement.
As far as accomplishments, I agree. You need some immediate goals, some short-term and longer-term. Immediately, I think the number one priority is to get more involvement. If we're going to leverage the work that's been done on Choose Chimacum and other committees, we need the parent involvement and the commitment to the effort that it's going to require. I sat in a very discouraging board meeting not too many weeks ago where the discussion went on for half hour, close to 45 minutes, on whether to fund a consultant to come in and help write a mission and vision statement, where our current chair made it clear that the vision should be easy. If the board, after serving this long, doesn't know what the vision and the mission is of the district, we're in trouble. We need to change that. It should be excellence. It should be the best. Now, assembling the forces to do that is an effort in itself, and we need volunteers and committed community members like yourselves. In the medium term, we need to take a look at some of the board policies. I couldn't find a single Chimacum District board policy that wasn't strictly cut and paste from the Washington School Directors Association, with no personalization, no customization, nothing that makes it Chimacum. That's not right. That needs to be our policies for our schools. In the medium and longer term, we need to address academic achievement, especially in the K through 4. Those kids get through that elementary school, and we're relying on the middle school and the high school to correct the problem. They're doing gargantuan work at the high school, but it's not going to be sufficient if we're failing them in the younger grades.
This is... Let's go in here. We've got two questions that are similar, and so I'm going to ask them both. Yeah, actually, here we go. We'll focus on this one. So I'll ask Steve to answer this one first. how do you plan to address the district's facilities needs?
My son, Ben, he runs track. And so I go around to all of his track meets, and I have to say, Chimacum facilities are in great shape. When I graduated from North Kitsap High School. That place could use a paint job. Chimacum is in excellent condition. We passed a capital levy that we're doing some improvements right now in the school. With closing the elementary school, that was our worst facility, and integrating what used to be the middle school into a 3 through 6, that's left us sitting pretty well as facility-wise. We do need a track. It would be nice to have a track that was not made of dirt. I will say my wife travels around the state to schools, and she says we might be the only one without an AstroTurf field around and a decent track at this point. I think the facilities are great right now. The community has invested their levy money well into our school district. So.
I would take a slightly different approach. I'm actually really sad that we lost our bond by such a small margin, and feel like we have some work to do to engage our community a little bit further and to prove to our community that we can offer a really high quality education program in order for us to eventually be able to pass a bond and improve our facilities. At the very least, Superintendent Thompson presented some ideas at the last board meeting about some minor changes, appropriate signage, doing some things in the yard, fixing the fence on 19. All of those small things add up to a better appearance with the facilities that we have. We can't afford even to take down the old school. It's too expensive for us right now. So we're going to have a vacant building basically just sitting there. I'm not proud of our facilities and hope that someday we can have a state-of-the-art school in Chimacum. I agree that we need a track, and I think we need to find some ways to invite our community to participate. There are people that I can think of that are willing to put some dollars and energy and time toward improvement of our track and outdoor facilities, and finding a way to welcome outside resources because we can generate them with the right mindset, and that mindset is unlimited potential, real accountability, rigorous goals. And then we can achieve some things and start to turn around that Chimacum is somehow the stepchild or not good enough. It's just simply not true. And we can work with that. I think that sometimes hampers also our students and their achievement. And that's a travesty.
And I think Superintendent Thompson had stated that the required improvements for even just combining the schools over the next 6 years would be about a $6 million investment. That's a purpose that we can raise levy money for, as opposed to the basic education, but we have to be very careful with those dollars. And if we can leverage those dollars, I've had personal experience as a volunteer coordinator for a National Day of Service several years in a row, bringing 100 people onto the school grounds, working with the maintenance supervisor, Henry Florschutz, we brought weed eaters, we brought shovels, we brought wheelbarrows, and we prepared the grounds for school opening. There's no reason that we can't do the same kind of work with painting, all the kinds of general skills that volunteers can bring to the table. There's no reason why we can't go to some of the contractors, some of the lumber yards for contributions for the common good. So I think we have to spend those resources wisely for the things that we can't do ourselves. But there's a tremendous amount of work that 10,000 people can do on a school campus. Thank you.
So the main idea here is we want a district that everyone can be proud of, from our community to our teachers to our kids. And an easy way to do that, it's much easier to be proud of your school when it looks nice. The new paint on the high school and middle school buildings within the last decade really freshened the look compared to the old brown of the auditorium and gymnasium. Now, we've mothballed the 35,000 square feet of the elementary building, and I think that was the right choice. We've moved our kids into their best spaces, and we've put in new carpeting and new paint for the new elementary spaces. Now, I agree that athletics is a place that we can focus. I've gone to football games for 20 years in the Chimacum district. It's pretty sad that we play in Memorial Field, and it doesn't really feel like a home game when it's in Port Townsend. As mentioned, we can definitely get the contractors involved in donations as well as monetary donations. I ran track in middle school, and it was really tough on the shins, and I got shin splints a couple times every season from running on the hard rock. I would train at the beginning of the season at Blue Heron, who at the time had a brand new track, and it was much better to run on. And when I started doing that, going into my 8th grade season, I had PRs straight off the bat. We have passed a capital levy, and part of that is for technology, and that is a big focus that we need to continue on. But we definitely should set a priority on athletics beyond the near term as we look to the future in creating a district that everyone can be proud of. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for addressing that facilities question. I've got some other great questions here, and I'm definitely going to ask this one. And Christina's going to start. What would you like to do to improve the functioning of the board?
Well, always interesting when you're a new member joining an already formed group. So there's some work to do around creating allies amongst the board members and figuring out what we can agree on and where some good places are to start our work together. One of the things that I would really like to see the board do is set more rigorous goals. Many of the goals they have don't have metrics or any way to measure performance. And I'd like to see a dashboard set up for our board goals so that everybody can see, how we're doing in accomplishing them. And I would like to see more decisiveness. It's been 3 years of continually inviting people in and getting feedback and comments, and now they're talking about inviting in someone to redo that very same work. And I find that we need to move forward. And so there's a lot of talent on that board. I mean, I think we can do a vision and mission workshop ourselves and get the show on the road, basically, and move us along. So, but again, it's relationship building with board members and key community members, making sure that we're really listening to our constituents and that we're choosing the right things to focus on. So I know, and Jim Collins in Good to Great says, you really have to focus your energy and time and resources when it's all limited, and we have to set some really strong and serious priorities.
It's a 5-member board. And remember that, thank you, your time is up. I'll just repeat the question one more time before Gary takes it. What would you do to improve the functioning of the board, the 5-member board, and remember that 3 seats will be new? because 3 are up for election. Well, actually, is there any, now I need to make sure.
Of 2 new members.
Thank you. I was just, okay, thank you. So a minimum of 2 of 5, so that's...
And a new chair, a new vice chair.
Right, and a new chair, since this is the seat for the chair. Thank you, and Gary, you may answer.
Yes, with that much change within the board, it is a new board, which is also a new opportunity. I would have to agree wholeheartedly with Christina's assessment. It's not an action-oriented board as it's now constituted, and this is an opportunity to change that. The way you get things done is you have a clear vision, you have a clear mission statement, you establish goals, you establish metrics to those, and you get commitments around those, and you resource them to completion. You track it all the way to completion. It's not rocket science, it's the science of project management and program management. Building consensus within the board is going to be important. That's done through community involvement again. Hearing that community involvement, because it's not these 5 members that should be setting the direction, it's the community that they represent. I would see as structural differences, there's, again, taking and leveraging some of the good work that's been done. I brought the school improvement plans from the high school and the elementary school. Unfortunately, the school improvement plan for the middle school was not up on the website where it should be for public viewing. So getting those kind of plans and those metrics and the performance against those visibly clear. We just had posted the 2019 to 2020 and 2021 budgets that were submitted. There's another document that shows what the allocation guidelines were from the state. There needs to be another step that shows the public what trade-offs did we make in those. The state allocated money by enrollment. How did the board make trade-offs against that allocation for local priorities? Thank you.
So the first step in improving the functioning of the board, I'd say, is make sure all the members of the board are awake. Last meeting, somebody fell asleep for about 5 minutes, and when they woke up, they spent the next 5 minutes asking questions that had already been answered. Next step, governance training. Make sure they know how the meeting is supposed to run, how the basic motions work, privilege, point of order. I mean, they look lost sometimes up there, and it takes a long time for anything to get done. Next step, as a lot of districts have done, I would split the 2 meetings, one as a workshop, and the next one as more focused on the business aspect. In terms of training, there's a lot of resources out there. You have OSPI, you have the Washington Educators Association, you have the national level, and you have WASDA. We really aren't making use of those resources, and we can host our own workshops. We have people in the community that are familiar with Robert's Rules of Order. They're pretty universal across all boards. It's minor tweaks that adapt it to boards of education. I also agree that they need to have key defined goals, and the community needs to hold them accountable to that. I have experience with defining key performance indexes, working with business intelligence, and slicing and dicing of the spreadsheets as mentioned by Gary. Thank you.
I've been attending board meetings for almost a year now, and one thing that I notice about our board currently is the lack of engagement. When all these schools are giving their school improvement plans, nobody's asking any tough questions. You know, when Beth Clifford stands up and is talking about referrals in the middle school, which hit pretty close to home. That's where my son goes to school. And she mentions that 8 students are responsible for 51% of all referrals to the office. There's no tough question followed by that from our school board currently. That's a perspective that I can add to our board as a parent. I talk to my kids, they tell me the good things, the bad things. I know I have connections with teachers in every single school, all 3 of our schools, 2 out of the 3 principals. It takes 3 votes to make a decision, to make a policy on the school board, and the best policies are made through thorough discussion and debate. You have to consider, you may come to a board meeting with an idea in hand that you've made up your mind at, but if there's no debate, you can't consider the alternate views. And right now, there is none of that on the board. That board meeting that Gary was referring to, while it was frustrating to see them kind of banter back and forth, it was also refreshing that they were actually talking about something.
We're going to go back to academic achievement, starting with Gary and going down the line, because this is something that, of course, the board can muster. Regarding academic achievement, what resources and leadership can the board, administration, and staff contribute?
Yeah, ultimately, the resources are financial and community volunteerism and community contributions. Those are the resources that the board can provide to help accomplish the goals. More importantly, the board sets the goals. They set the standard. They call in Superintendent Thompson and they say, this is the bar. He takes that to the principals and to the staff, and they implement on a daily basis to meet that bar. If being average is good enough, well, that's where the bar is. The board can insist, speaking the voice of the community again, the board can insist that the bar is excellence. Stretch goals. I think it's as simple as that.
So under our revised Code of Washington, the final responsibility lies with the board. So we can do that through expanding our curriculum committee, getting more teacher involvement, getting parent involvement, and perhaps even student involvement. We have student representative on our board, but the amount of input they give is limited, and the subjects they give the input on is not as wide as I would expect it to be. Furthermore, you just have to be aggressive about holding everybody accountable on each level. If you have a curriculum that everybody in the school has bought into, they'll be more engaged in teaching the content to their kids. The teachers teaching it to the students. When parents feel involved in the curriculum, they're going to be excited about the curriculum. People like learning about local history and the significance of our area and other factors. We need to have an academic curriculum that the district has bought into and that everybody is excited about sharing with our kids. Thank you.
So recently we've had some jumps in academic achievement. I was on the phone this week with a teacher from the elementary discussing, I asked him the question, what made these test scores jump? And I was surprised to learn that he thought it was the feedback from map testing, and there was another program that they were also doing in the elementary. I've been down on map testing. My son comes home from school from map testing in the elementary school, and he says, you know, most of his classmates just buzz through it as fast as they can without caring about their score. My son achieves high because that's the expectation that I put on him, and he scores very high on it, and he's curious to see how high he can get. There's very little buy-in with the middle school teachers and the high school teachers with the MAP testing. Frankly, I think it's a waste of resources and student time. It's important for the district to set the bar high, but we need to look at you know, how did we achieve these successes in the middle school and the primary, and model that maybe further up in the middle school. That's my feedback.
Well, anyone that's ever taught school knows it's not easy to raise student achievement. Chimacum's running about 53% poverty, and many of our students are coming to school with social and emotional problems. We have a lot of traumas. We have a lot of things to work on in terms of setting the social and emotional climate in our schools. Children don't learn if they don't feel safe. If they don't have a sense of belonging, they can't learn. And so we must attend to some of these needs before we can anticipate that the achievement will go up. I am all about community involvement, but I think we need to learn better in Chimacum how to use it, how to harness it. We've had it, and it's just fizzled, and I know a lot of the people that I know are just kind of tired of coming and offering and then not going anywhere. 33% of our teachers are in the 0 to 5 year range of experience. We have a developing workforce, and they need support through workshops and their principals and the superintendent and others providing them guidance and extra learning activities. The policy framework that we set in Chimacum, while I do not aspire to have all of WASDA's language, needs to be enabling language. I sat on the policy committee for the Port Townsend School District for 5 years at their invitation, even after I had moved to Chimacum, to help set policies that really enable the kind of teaching and learning that we want. We don't have to settle for policies that are limiting, and I think right now that's what's happening. I think that we can contribute by continuing to help with the positive behavior program that teachers are implementing. We've had some behavior and bullying problems, and we have to quell that before we can expect achievement to start to rise.
All right, thank you all. This next question, I will remind Jeremy, he's going to start. And I think this touches a bit more deeply on this last topic of socioeconomic status and how that affects academic achievement. So this takes it kind of one level deeper. I'm planning to have this be the last question from the audience. And so here we go. Thank you for submitting this, and for all of you who submitted your questions. One of the challenges of our times is to prepare for a just society. Gender, race, income, and all of this in the face of climate change. How do we do that in Chimacum?
So it's well documented that socioeconomic factors are a proxy for academic achievement, so you have to make up for that in other areas. Now, in terms of protected classes and discrimination, some of those protected classes have multiple standard deviation higher suicide rates across the nation than the average for their age group. Now that's unacceptable. In my time in the area, we've had a suicide of one of my close friends, and that was absolutely devastating to the community. In terms of climate change, I mean, we have excellent resources in the area. We have a Jefferson County group that is focused on climate change. There's a Western Washington group. Naval Base in Kitsap has done a lot of work on what the impacts of climate change will be on their operations. as well as Indian Island, we can leverage the work that's already been done and become the stakeholders in this changing world to create a more just world. Our world isn't just, but if we educate our kids and teach them equality and fairness, we can help improve that situation.
Tough question. As far as the climate change question goes, we have a very strong science department here at Chimacum, starting in the middle school, starting in the elementary and the primary school. The science is real. We're teaching real science. Even up to our horticulture classes in the high school, it's like agriculture is going to be changed by climate change. As far as a just society, for example, bullying is a problem in every school district in the state. There was a listening forum, I think 3 years ago, that Chimacum held, where that was a common thread that, our child is being bullied. The district responded with, they put this great link on their website to an anonymous reporting software, but I think they missed the boat in that nobody knows it's there. They see the icon there, but don't know what it is. Both of my sons have had problems with being bullied, and when I took it to the principal, it was handled, but it was a hard thing for them to come forward with, and that the ability to communicate, for the children to be able to anonymously communicate that to the school district. I think we need to put more effort into that. So.
Okay, so the just society part about gender and racial equity and things like that boils down to me to respecting one another and teaching some behaviors and skills for students to be curious and want to know the other people that are not like them. And that would require us to really kind of expand our four walls and really bring in experiences to Chimacum. We don't have a great deal of racial diversity or different abledness in our schools. We would need to provide opportunities for students to engage, be curious, ask questions, and learn. And as far as climate change goes, that's actually a really great topic that's could be integrated across a curriculum super easily if one chose to do that. I would agree that we have an ace science department. Our science scores are really pretty good, and I think we have some national board certified teachers in our science department. It's really a good one. But climate change doesn't just live in a science department. It's a social issue, it's an economic issue. So again, it's something that could be integrated across a curriculum if a school or a group of teachers decided they wanted to do that. And I would, of course, as a board member, be fully supportive of that exploration. It's a curiosity, it's happening, and we want our kids to be contemporary in their learning, and so this topic should really be brought forward to them whenever possible.
Don't get me started on climate change. I did my master's thesis on global tomography and measuring the global temperatures of the ocean. Afterwards, I'd love to talk to anybody about that. But for our children, I like what's written in the RCW law. is one of the goals is to have our children think analytically, logically, and creatively, and to integrate technology, literacy, and fluency, as well as different experiences and knowledge to form reasoned judgments and solve problems. Understanding the importance of work and finance and how performance, effort, and decisions directly affect future career and educational opportunities. Those kind of things aren't measured at the Wassel tests, right? They're not in the MAP assessments. Those are critical. The law goes on to say that the legislature intends that local communities have the responsibility for determining how a list of values and character traits are learned. Not the state, but the local communities, by consensus at the local level. These values and traits include the importance of honesty, integrity, trust, respect for self and others, responsibility for personal actions and commitments, self-discipline, moderation, diligence, and a positive work ethic, respect for law and authority, healthy and positive behavior, and family as the basis of society. If we neglect that, all the education in the world just makes smart people, not necessarily an informed and responsible citizenry. We have the responsibility to educate our children, to make them good decision makers, and look at facts objectively and make decisions. We can do better in the discipline of our schools. I'll use an example. We used to have suspension in the school where the kids were monitored doing the homework. Now we have out-of-school suspension where kids who are misbehaving go home and play video games. I think we can do better.
We want to know, and we're starting with Steve, what one thing fired up your personal resolve to run? Because as the wife of a candidate one time, there was that one thing where they're like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm running. I'm putting my name down in the courthouse. So I want to know what that one thing was, and are you intended, or is it your intention, and are you prepared to serve more than one term?
Yeah, I'm gonna serve out this term. It's
more than one term. Sorry, we expect you to serve out the term that you're elected to.
Well, I don't know about more than one, but like I said, I've got skin in this game. My kids, I've got an 8th grader this year who I want to see Chimacum schools succeed for him and his classmates. As far as, what was the other?
Yeah, what was the one thing that got you to put your name in?
The one thing that got me to put my name in is that in going to all these school board meetings since last, late August, I found myself repeatedly wishing that I had a voice, wishing that I could ask tough questions. Wishing for more debate, and that's what inspired me to run for school board.
The one thing is that I want to live in a community that has a really outstanding school district. And I think I have the skills and voice that can help bring that to be. And I'm excited about the opportunity to take what we have and just move it forward. I think part of my decision was out of a little bit of frustration about the slow pace at which things are happening when I see us redoing the same ground over and over, and I'm ready to go the next step. So I'm an action-oriented person, I'm a thoughtful, deliberate thinker, and I'm ready to offer my services to the district.
Would you serve more than one term?
I would certainly consider it.
We'll take care of this term, 4-year term first, but I would certainly consider that. The work is too important not to. There was nobody filing for this position until the last day of filing. That was probably the number one thing that said, oh my God, 10,000 people, nobody's interested in doing this work. It's too important. That's it.
Yeah, so as just touched on, It was midday, I had just had lunch, and nobody had filed for the position. So I thought back of my experiences with other board members. I mentioned earlier that one of the board members was my next door neighbor. I've also lived on another street that one of my neighbors was a board member. And the parents of some of my friends have been past board members, all in this district, but funnily enough. So really fired me up was the defeatist attitude that it's just Chimacum. I mean, it was touched on at the graduation speeches by some of the students that were offended by that they were proud of their school. They'd seen the improvement while they'd been at the school, and they wanted it to be better. The lack of the incumbent and him not feeling that he was up to it, and saying that to the paper, that kind of upset me as well. In terms of serving out a term in multiple terms, a lack of continuity has really hurt the district. For a long time, we had strong leaders, well-known families that served on the board for over 10 years. I mean, we're talking 2, 3, 4, 5 terms. I intend to serve on the board as long as I'm eligible and living in the district.
I think we are so glad that of the 10,000 folks in the district that you 4 were willing to run into the courthouse. So let's give them all a big round. But we still have closing statements. I'm just going to ask you to stand as we've been doing right where you are, and I'm just going to run it back around since just the way we've been doing the questions. So Christina will be the first one to do, and we'll just go back down. Okay. Just a final closing statement. You have 1 minute only. That's the way it's set up. So just your chance to kind of say, here's why you should vote for me, or anything you want to hammer in on that you didn't get to touch on today.
Thank you. Well, my first point is I think we need to believe it. We need to believe in ourselves and the value of our investment in Chimacum schools and our community. I think we need to brand it and tell people who we are and give families a reason to choose Chimacum. We talk about choose Chimacum, but let's give them a reason to do that. Let's become it. Let's step into our full potential and make visible and notable steps toward a new vision for Chimacum schools. I want to make sure that all of our students have a growth trajectory that's working for them, that will make them on track to graduate. Some of our students are not receiving a full year's growth for a full year in the classroom, and I'd really like to see that change. So vote for me if you're really interested in academics, putting some structure to the processes that we have, and letting us take that next full step toward a new Chimacum school district.
I'm going to say a few words that you'll never hear a candidate say. Don't vote for me. And the 5th word, if. Don't vote for me if you're just beating the state average is good enough for your kids. Don't vote for me if you're okay with business as usual. Don't vote for me if you hope 5 board members and the paid professional staff can transform our schools without your help. Don't vote for me if you're okay with the current reputation and continuing exodus from Chimacum schools. Don't vote for me if you want a board majority with stronger ties to the system than with students' families. Do vote for me if you share a vision that we can become Washington's premier election or education opportunity. If you want a board to become united around a shared vision and resulting stretch goals and priorities. If you want to be incessantly invited to become part of our solution. If you would prefer to have the challenges of success rather than the struggles of failure. And if you're willing to roll up your sleeves and get involved in the hard work to transform our schools. Thank you.
I want a district we can be proud of. I want something that everybody is bought into. Everybody is excited when they see the name Chimacum Schools in the paper and they don't wonder, oh no, what now? hope for what's next. You want to hear more about the schools. You read the columns and you read the newsletters from the schools, the ongoing communication. I want the district to move forward, and what better way than with a younger perspective on the board moving towards the future. The district needs to move towards the 21st century, especially in communication. We have the capability to have live input from all of our stakeholders, and we're not taking advantage of that. Thank you.
I'm running as a parent. I've got kids in the district. Like I said, their success is depending on a strong school system. As a parent, I have connections with, like I said, with teachers and parents in all of the schools. I like to get a consensus before I come to any conclusions as far as policy goes. I've volunteered in youth sports for the past 6-8 years in the Little League and Jefferson County Soccer Club. I hold my kids to a high academic standard, and they meet it. I think that's something that the school should do also. There you go.
All right. Well, folks, that's a wrap. Thank you all, and thank you all for caring. Come out tonight.